From the Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott Mundt, and this is Weather or Not. It is Tuesday, December 23rd, and coming up on today's show, we've been talking about Christmas week and how warm it's been. Well, here we are, Tuesday of Christmas week, and we'll continue with the warmth. Temperatures above average, though I should mention that we have taken a step back today with an easterly wind. Cold front move through, easterly wind for today. Numbers will be a little cooler. Not forecasting any numbers in the 70s. I know we hit the 70s in south central KELOLAND yesterday. That will not be the case for today, but temperatures will warm once again. Once we get into tomorrow, a little bit warmer. For some in western, southwestern South Dakota, 70s may return on Christmas Day, and that is something that we'll talk about with Brian coming up here in just a bit. But once we get beyond Christmas, we do slowly cool. That happens Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday may end up being one of those days where we have falling temperatures, and the front will actually move through on Saturday. Okay, I think we'll have numbers that will still hit for high temperatures in the early afternoon. Then we may start to slide, but that cold air continues to come in as we do get into Sunday, and it could be one of those days where temperatures remain steady or slowly fall as we do go through the day. Moisture is very, very limited. A couple of snow showers or flurries may show up, but moisture is very limited that we're not overly excited about our precipitation chances for right now. And then we'll talk about the extended forecast, but let's talk about the immediate forecast in the meantime. There's high pressure to our north into northern Minnesota. I mentioned with this that we'll have more of an easterly wind for today, and the clouds may be a little thicker too, so temperatures will be a little cooler for everybody. And then you notice this warm front will try to move through KELOLAND as we go into Christmas Eve, and we'll have slowly warming temperatures. Clouds may be a little thicker there in the Minnesota and Iowa, but it still looks like we will stay dry. And speaking of thicker cloud cover, it's Christmas Eve night going into Christmas Day that will probably have this low-level moisture trapped in eastern KELOLAND. Some of that may even extend into central South Dakota. Don't be surprised for fog to develop Christmas Eve night going into Christmas morning. And for some, this low-level cloudiness will continue throughout the day. So I think for eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, it could end up being just a cloudy day for Christmas itself. Temperatures will be above average as we'll try to bring these numbers at least into the low to middle 40s for highs in eastern, southeastern South Dakota. Very warm across the west and southwest, downright mild, with temperatures warming to the 70s, probably set records in western South Dakota. Winds today, they'll remain light, more of an easterly wind to cover eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa. And then as we do get into Christmas Day itself, looks like the winds may be a little stronger into western KELOLAND. And then I think as we do go throughout the day, we'll try to mix up that atmosphere. You do notice how the winds do increase Thursday. I think as we do go through the day, we'll start with light winds, fog, hopefully mix that atmosphere up, scour out that fog, as you do see a couple of these wind gusts into that 20 to near 30 mile per hour range in eastern South Dakota. The winds will be a little stronger for the hills. And then on Friday, we'll get a break from the wind. Wind picks up again across western South Dakota. But watch what happens as we get into this coming weekend. And we'll talk more about this coming up in one of our segments. But with this northwest wind for Saturday, the first half of the weekend, that will bring in or start to bring in some cooling temperatures, maybe not right away on Saturday. Numbers will still be above average, but not quite as warm as what's expected on Friday. And then it's Sunday that the cold air, probably the core of the cold this time around, will try to move through on Sunday. Here's a forecast for today. As I mentioned, temperatures will be cooler with this easterly wind. Highs may only be in the 20s for some in northeastern South Dakota. Siston at 24, 29 in Watertown and Ortonville. We're going for 42 in Sioux Falls, 40 in Mitchell, middle 40s from Yankton toward Lake Andes. And notice south central South Dakota. We're at numbers in the 60s and 70s. It will be cooler, but still above average with highs in the 50s. And then we'll have 50s today across western South Dakota, though Pine Ridge looks to be the warmest on our temperature map here, saying a high temperature of 65. And then for tonight, we'll have easterly winds, a southeast wind. Curious if we'll get any fog, maybe some patchy fog to develop later tonight as temperatures fall to the 20s in central and eastern South Dakota, 30 to near 40-degree weather in parts of western and south central South Dakota. Well, coming up next, we'll talk more about this warmth during the week and be joined by meteorologist Brian Karstens. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not, joined by meteorologist Brian Karstens. Here we are, Christmas week, forecasting temperatures to be well above average. We mentioned last week how this week is looking just the opposite of what we had during Thanksgiving.
True enough, yeah. When we started all this winter weather back on Thanksgiving or a little bit after that, and then it was, of course, just a really busy couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, and now we've opened the door to this, Scott, where it's just kind of nice. Some days more than others. I was sure surprised yesterday to see 76 for a high in Valentine, Nebraska. That tells a lot about the resilience of this pattern, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and we set a record in Rapid City, and we'll talk more about records coming up here in a bit. But, you know, Brian, we were, or at least I was, all excited of getting these temperatures to hit records for Christmas Day in Sioux Falls. We have to hit 50. That's the existing record right now. And just going through the forecast from last week through this past weekend, when I look at the 10 forecast models that I like to look at in an extended forecast, look how they started to go up with getting a model of at least 50 degrees. Through Friday, it was half of them, 5 out of 10. And then the weekend on Saturday, I'm thinking 9 out of 10. Well, that's a shoo-in that will get numbers in the 50s. And it averaged out those 10 models to 52. Sunday, it kind of took a step back, 6 out of 10, and it averaged out to 50. And then this past Monday, today, 0. 0 showing temperature at 50. And those average highs have also fallen to the middle 40s. And that's our forecast right now is for a high temperature in the middle 40s, the cloud cover.
Yep. And My thoughts are, and I didn't say this on air, but now that I'm processing more of this is classic backdoor cold front. The back door opens up to Duluth, Minnesota, Bemidji, and look what comes in. Now, to be honest here, too, here's an interesting thing about this forecast is that if you take a slice of the atmosphere over Sioux Falls on Christmas Day, okay, we can argue about, okay, high temperature, low 40s, probably, give or take a little bit here. That's not the record. The record is 50. But the temperature upstairs, if you go just about 2,000 to, even a little bit more, but not by much, just about that height, about the height of the KELO TV tower.
I was about to say, just climb that tower.
Yeah, so if you see that.
You could be in short sleeves.
Yep. Well, it's amazing because the temperature difference between Rapid City and Sioux Falls at that height is it's honestly about the same temperature on Christmas. Everything below that makes all the difference. And an east wind, no way we're going to warm up with that. That doesn't happen in our experience over the years. So we had to do the cutting of the temperatures. But you know what, Scott? We kind of gave the cutting. We did that in the east, but then we gave bonus points to Rapid City.
Yeah, here's a look at Christmas week. Now, of course, we're looking beyond Monday. Monday, we hit 46, so that's the actual high temperature that we hit for the day when we go through these 4 forecast cities. Today, we're forecasting 42. Yes, that's below the record of 57. But think of the climate average high, 29 degrees, and we have temperatures in the 40s this week, shy of the records. Now, northeastern South Dakota, Aberdeen, the average high temperature, about 26 degrees. We will be above average. The warmest day is looking like Christmas Day with a high temperature at 42. These numbers are still below the record high temperatures. Now, things in central South Dakota make it a little interesting when we do look at the record books. Yesterday we hit 47. That's far from the record high yesterday of 68. Okay. Getting a little closer on Christmas Eve, forecasting 48. The record's 54. But look at Christmas Day itself, 56. If that happens, then yes, we will at least tie a record. Of course, we get a little higher than that, then we will set a record. But Western South Dakota, Brian, you went ahead and said, you know what? Let's shoot for the lower 70s on Christmas. At the beginning of this segment, you said 76 degrees was the high temperature in Valentine.
Yep.
So the 70s are out there. It's just a matter of where do they show up. And they may show up in Rapid City on Christmas Day. And that would just, easily surpass the record of 63 that day.
Yeah, no question about it. So we have the warmth. We have the players here. We just get to keep track of the records. But even, for tomorrow, getting into Christmas Eve, I've noticed that some of the newest data in Sioux Falls is as high as 47. I'm just looking at that right off my machine right now, Scott. So,
maybe
round
we'll
up.
switch it, get a 50 for Christmas Eve, not Christmas Day.
That's close enough, right? 47 versus 50. Come on now. That's really close. So there you go. That's why Santa's still working up a sweat. He's got to work real hard here, getting a lot of.
He's warm. He's not stressed that it's Christmas Eve.
He's got to
get. Yeah, he has to get his work done.
That's what he'll be.
He needs both.
And I'm sure as he goes south, look at what the weather is in Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas. Very, very warm. So that's the bottom line for Christmas Eve. Now let's look at Christmas Day. So we'll land in the 40s in Sioux Falls. And, here's another little tidbit of information, too. I think Christmas morning, and I'm just looking at right off the cuff here, Scott, just while you were talking.
Okay.
There's more and more modeling trying to give us fog on Christmas morning when that warm air is aloft and it traps everything in that lowest 2,000 feet of the atmosphere. I see the brewings of a Christmas frost.
Okay.
I'm going to hold to that. I'm going to see.
Somewhat of a white Christmas.
I'm thinking I can find some redemption here a little bit. Can we use that as our? I know it doesn't work for a white Christmas because you got to get an inch of snow on the ground. But remember last year we had a lot of that hoarfrost.
Yep. And I was about to say that too. And didn't we go through that last year?
Yep. So this program, you heard it first right here on Whether or Not. We talked a little bit on the morning show about it, but I'm getting a little more confident that frost and fog will be out there. Now, of course, nobody wants to drive through fog Christmas morning either, so we'll be careful about that. But I still think 70s are going to pop up out there west of Winter in the afternoon because that wind, see the difference? It's a southwest wind from Tripp County west. You look at Sioux Falls, that's a southeast or an easterly wind, and that's it. That's all you need to know. You see that? And we can't warm a lot with a southeast wind.
No, and today's a prime example too. We have temperatures that will be cooler today. We'll have more of an easterly wind. Clouds may be a little thicker compared to what we had yesterday, but our temperatures will still be above average.
Yeah, it's these subtleties. So when we try to do numbers here, we're still above normal. We still have a very modified Pacific air mass. This is not Arctic air. So we look at our normal highs this time of year, Scott, and we anticipate we're going to have Arctic air in here. That's why normal highs are in the 20s and 30s now. But when we have that absence of that, plus the absence of snow cover, you automatically add to the temperature forecast, and that's why we land where we do.
I will mention this. Now, tomorrow we'll both be in. And if it still looks like we're getting fog, I think in our graphic system, Brian, I think we do have a reindeer with a red nose.
I saw that. I almost put him in there.
Okay, good.
I almost
We'll do that tomorrow then. You could do that tomorrow.
I just wasn't confident enough, but I'm getting there. So Rudolph, he might be well needed in KELOLAND.
Yeah, he'll have to work too. And once we get beyond Christmas and into the weekend, looks like temperatures will cool. We'll talk more about that colder weekend coming up. You're watching Whether or Not.
Well,
welcome back to Whether or Not. This warmth can't continue right into the weekend. We are looking at colder temperatures that will return as we do get into this weekend. Let's go ahead and jump right into things. Now, this is for Saturday. Yeah, we'll still warm, but maybe not quite as warm as what we'll experience as we do go through this week. We will cool a little on Friday, and then that cooling trend will actually continue as we do get into the first half of this weekend. You notice that on Saturday. And then as we continue through Saturday evening, Saturday night, look at the cold air start to sink in from the north. That's 9 o'clock in the evening. We may see temperatures in the teens in north central and northeastern South Dakota. And then look what happens on Sunday. You may notice those wind arrows coming in from the northwest. Well, that, of course, is helping to bring in much cooler air. We are looking at temperatures probably in the teens, 20s as we get into the afternoon hours for central, eastern, and northeastern South Dakota. I think it could be one of those days on Sunday where temperatures will remain steady or slowly fall as we do go through the day. And we'll have to talk about a wind chill map, which will be coming up here in just a bit. But I do want to tell you what's going on with our weather. We have this low pressure system in Canada, and you know what? They've been infamous to help bring in some strong winds along with it. You didn't notice how temperatures are turning colder as that front moves through. But it doesn't last either. We are looking at temperatures to slowly warm. Once we get beyond probably Monday in eastern South Dakota, temperatures will warm for the last couple of days of December, and then we'll see what January ends up bringing. January, we've had some days suggesting that we'll have a cold air mass come in during the first week. We've had other models suggest over the past couple of days, hey, let's not bring in that cold air right away. We'll stay warm. So we still have a lot of things to sort out as we do get into the beginning of January. And I touched a little bit on these winds earlier, but the winds will increase as this front comes through for the first half of the weekend. Notice behind that front, northwest winds. Some of the strongest winds on Saturday will probably be found western, central, northern South Dakota during the afternoon, but stronger winds will move in the eastern and southeastern KELOLAND during the evening, maybe even last into the overnight. And then look what happens here on Sunday. Wind gusts over 40 miles per hour in eastern South Dakota. That's starting to show up for Marshall, Brookings, Huron, and areas to the south, getting close to 40 in Aberdeen and Watertown. So we'll have to watch Sunday for our strong northwest winds that will continue to bring in the cold air. And I do want to show you this, the wind chill map as we do go through the day on Sunday. We could start with wind chills approaching minus 20 in eastern and northeastern South Dakota. Otherwise, expect widespread minus single digits and minus teens. That will try to slowly improve as we do go through the day on Sunday. Coming up in the next weather segment, we'll talk more about our extended forecast. Stay with us. You're watching Whether or Not. Welcome back to Whether or Not. It's time to talk about the extended forecast, something that we usually say for the very end. And Brian, we know what's happening this week, warm weather, but that changes as we get into the weekend. But for how long does that change?
Well, that's just it. And, through and through in the 7-day forecast and even beyond that, we're not really forecasting any major blockbuster snowstorms. We don't have any of that yet that we can find. But we do see some pretty big jumps in the jet stream pattern because initially, as we kick off Christmas break, we've got this big dominant high-pressure ridge to our south.
Now, that reminds me, I'm going to just jump in. That reminds me of the fall weather we had. The high was maybe a little bit farther to the west, but even as it jogged to the east where you have the placement right now, that reminds me of fall.
Yep, it does. And It's a classic pattern for the southern plains to really warm up going into Christmas. Look at this.
Speaking of.
I didn't mean to hit that, but hey, we just concluded a dry fall pattern, didn't we? Looking back at October and back when that high was around a lot.
Yep.
So there you go. Okay, so now as we go into official winter, it is winter now, by the way, isn't it?
It is. Happened on Sunday.
It's kind of amazing how that catches up to you. Now you're like, oh yeah, now the days are getting
longer.
Yeah, longer. We've passed the winter solstice. So anyway, looking at the pattern here, the breakdown on the ridge, yes, it is there after Christmas, but there is a low. Big news in California. They're going to get hammered with a lot of Pacific moisture, but that's not really going to be our story. We're going to watch another zipper low here along the Canadian border on Sunday. You've talked about that, the cold air that comes in with that. And then do we realign this whole thing as we end 2025 and begin 2026? And northwest flow, it seems like that's the default, Scott. So I would not argue a lot with this. One thing to keep in mind is that a pattern like this can breed big wind again. And already there's some early bird indicators that could be the case around New Year's Eve. If this map holds and that pattern is close to what we end up with, I would say that could be a windmaker day there. But it's also, in my opinion, not any big snow. I mean, that's a northwest flow. So we'll see what January brings, but I would imagine we'll kind of pick up some of these same talking points.
Would you say let the trend be your friend when it comes to the extended?
It seems like that's a good phrase to use.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to bark about when the next major Arctic blast is going to come. I'm sure we'll deal with that. It is January coming up after all, but at least if we can keep this pattern going, we'll intertwine some mild air too. It's just the wind. That's been a big story so far in the cold weather season, and unfortunately there might be some more of that in the pattern.
We'll continue to follow it, and you can follow it as well by watching Brian and I on Whether or Not. Thank you for joining us, and have yourself a great day.